Good morning, everyone. I call the public hearing of the House Transportation Committee to order. I will remind members that this meeting is being broadcasted and recorded. I will now ask the members, starting on my right, to introduce themselves. And the first one would be Rep. Bellman. He doesn't speak well, so I'm going to get this name out because you might not. Oh, I'm sorry, Rep.
Thank you, Chair. Appreciate it. I'm State Representative Anthony Bellman, the 203rd District in Philadelphia County.
Representative Mary Isaacson, the 175th District, Philadelphia County.
Representative Eric DeVanzo, 58th Legislative District, Southern Westmoreland County.
Representative Perry Stanbaugh, the 86th District, all of Perry and most of Juniata counties.
And of course, you have Chairman Benninghoff and myself here to welcome you all to today's hearing. Today's public hearing is proposed legislation to expand the use of ATVs on roadways by emergency responders. Currently, ATVs are generally prohibited from Pennsylvania roads. However, ATVs operated as emergency vehicles by police departments, fire departments, and emergency medical services agencies are exempt from PennDOT registration requirements and are permitted to operate on roadways up to a maximum of 2 miles. This is provided that they're equipped with audible warning systems such as sirens and visual signals such as flashing lights, just like many of our other emergency vehicles. Currently, if an emergency ATV must travel beyond 2 miles, it must be loaded onto a trailer and towed to its desired location. Recently, several emergency responses have expressed their support in expanding their ability to use emergency ATVs on roads beyond the current 2-mile cap. The mobility provided by these emergency ATVs proves the essential in landscapes with difficult terrain, inaccessible trails, and crowded places like festivals and sporting events. They also aid in search and rescue efforts, storm response, and disaster relief situations. However, we have also heard from safety concerns about using these emergency ATVs. For example, they lack safety equipment such as seatbelts, windshields, doors, and airbags. As a result, the operator of an ATV may be seriously injured or killed if they are involved in an accident. There is a bipartisan interest in expanding the use of these emergency ATVs. Both Rep. Perry Stanbaugh and Rep. Tim Brennan have introduced legislation on this important issues. The purpose of today's public hearing is to hear directly from some of our local emergency responders on this issue, and I look forward to today's discussion. Chair Benninghoff, if you have any opening remarks you'd like to share with the group.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just want to thank the group for being here and our testifiers. As a former county coroner, I also am smart enough to realize that there are sometimes the only way you could get into certain places is with some kind of all-terrain vehicle. So I think these discussions are helpful for the people that have not had those experiences. Somebody that was out in both the 93 blizzard and the 94 blizzard, it was only these types of machinery that were able to get us access to families, whether for emergency or for my service as the county coroner. So we're interested in hearing your professional testimony and some of your own experiences. Thank you for being here.
Before we start the testimony, I'd also like to recognize the prime sponsor of House Bill 297, Rep. Perry Stanbaugh from Juniata and Perry counties. Ask him if he has any opening remarks he'd like to share with the committee.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman, for bringing these bills up. This was a concern that was brought to me a couple years ago by our fire departments in Perry and Juniata counties. And quite frankly, when I first heard about it, I was a little bit surprised that there was this range restriction on operating these vehicles on our highways. And so really got me looking into this issue a little bit. And, my legislation, my bill was the result of that. So I'm looking forward to the testimony today, and I thank everybody that's here.
Thank you, Representative. I'd also like to recognize the prime sponsor, House Bill 2233. Rep. Tim Brennan is from Bucks County. He's also in the audience today. And online, we have Rep. Brian Smith, Donna Sharon, and Rep. Christina Sappi. All right. Well, gentlemen, it's your time to shine. So I want to thank you for joining us today and introduce the testifiers from Central Bucks Regional Police Department in Bucks County. We're joined by Captain Lance Carlin and Captain Paul Kreutzer from Blaine Volunteer Fire Company in Perry County. Imagine being a rep and have your name, like your county named after you. I mean, this is pretty good, right? Hey, Perry, you're like the only one. We were just talking about it. I mean, can you imagine this, Senator Benninghoff? Philly Ed? I mean, I could do the Philly Ed thing, but I'm sorry. Yeah. Written testimony has been shared to the committee, gentlemen, and we appreciate it, and it will be available online. The committee also has received written testimony from the Ambulance Association of Pennsylvania and the State Police. Thank you for taking your time out of your busy schedule. And I didn't introduce. I went to Perry. Sorry, Chief Campbell. Damn, my dad was a fireman. This is terrible. Sorry. We're also joined by Blaine Volunteer Fire Company in Perry County by Chief Nick Campbell. This is why they write stuff down, because I just go off script all the time, right? It's a Philly thing, Bucks County thing. So thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule and making the trip here to Harrisburg. I'm going to allow each of you to speak in turn. And after everyone is done, we will open the questions up to the committee members. We will start with Captain Carlin.
Good morning, Chairman Nielsen, members of the House Transportation Committee. My name is Lance Carlin. I'm a captain with the Central Bucks Regional Police Department in Bucks County. We serve the boroughs of Chalfont, Doylestown, and New Britain. I'm here today in my official capacity supporting amending Title 75 to better allow the use of utility train vehicles and all-terrain vehicles by public safety agencies. Currently, the law only recognizes ATVs, not UTVs. I appreciate the intent behind House Bill 297 and House Bill 2233. Both bills recognize these vehicles are valuable tools for police, fire, and EMS. However, from our department's perspective, neither bill fully addresses the operational realities we face with the use of these vehicles. In 2024, our department acquired a Can-Am Defender UTV for trail patrol, emergency response, and coverage of large community events such as the Doylestown Arts Festival and Bike Race Weekend. We've used it to search for missing persons, respond to off-road medical emergencies, operate on farmland and wooded areas, and assist during severe snow events, which we recently had in southeastern Pennsylvania. These vehicles are essential because they allow us to reach areas that traditional patrol vehicles cannot safely or efficiently access. In one recent incident, our UTV helped officers and EMS reach an elderly person suffering a medical emergency deep in a cornfield. That quick access likely made the difference in a positive outcome. The challenge is that the current law is too restrictive. Our trail system includes both off-road paths and access points that require limited travel on local and state roadways. As shown in the appendices I gave you in the brief I gave you in A, B, and C, short roadway travel is necessary for our department to reach all of our trail system while responding for patrolling and protecting lives. But under the current law, and even under the proposed bills, roadway use remains too closely tied to emergency response status, the Title 4571 of the Vehicle Code, the lights and sirens aspect of using them on the highway. Our department's position is simple. Public safety UTVs should be permitted limited on-road use for official duties, not just when operating in emergency mode. That includes patrol, event coverage, search operations, and access between designated trail points. Our UTV is fully marked, insured, locally authorized, equipped with substantial safety features, and operated by trained personnel only. We're asking for a practical, controlled expansion of the law that reflects real-world public safety needs. Thank you for your time and consideration of this.
Good morning, Chairman Nelson and members of the House Transportation Committee. My name is Paul Kruder. I serve as a captain, along with Captain Carlin, at the Central Bucks Regional Police Department located in Bucks County, representing the same three boroughs that he also spoke about. I am also a volunteer firefighter and president of Doylestown Fire Company No. 1. I'm also an EMT and former ambulance member for a ridiculous amount of time. The Central Bucks Regional Police Department and the Doylestown Fire Company both own UTVs. They're used for all types of events. Specifically, the police department's ATV is used for tracking, has been used for tracking wanted persons in fields and reservoirs, and Last year, we had a suicidal teenager run out of one of our high schools and was going to kill himself on the railroad tracks. With the aid of the Pennsylvania State Police helicopter and our ATV, UTV, we were able to locate this child and get him the proper help that he needed. He was not in an area where a patrol car could get to at all until he finally disclosed himself. It's also used to patrol parks and our bike trails, as Captain Corwin spoke about, and we have a problem with just driving to the trails because of our restriction of 2 miles. The Doylestown Fire Company has a UTV that has a small water tank on it and rescue Stokes basket and hose for small brush fires. It's been used most recently in the heavy snowstorms to aid EMS because, as most of you know, four-wheel drive ambulances are very expensive, and our ambulances in our area do not have four-wheel drive. So the ATVs and UTVs respond with EMS to clear the roads, areas in front of the houses, and so people can get to a house. That's what they do the most in our last snowstorm. We're just asking you to change some of the language in Title 75 so that we have proper registration plates, which are a concern for us. We don't care what they say on them. They could be emergency vehicles, SME tags, municipal government tags, but we need to have a registration tag on our vehicles that's not a UTV restricted through DCNR. We believe that the state limit, the recommendation is just not acceptable. It's just we would like to be able to use these UTVs to do the things that we do on a daily basis. We're not out there patrolling in them, doing car stops in them or anything of that nature, arresting people, putting them in the back of them. We're not doing that. That's not what we do. What they are doing is they have become a resource for everybody. So the bills that were introduced here are very helpful, but they do not address the use of these vehicles when going to non-emergency calls or events. Very, very important. We request that you update the vehicle code to the best of your ability and with hopefully our insight. And aside from us just giving this testimony here, we'd like to have some open conversation, which I believe is what we were told will be happening today, so we can elaborate a little bit more. But I want to thank you for your time giving us today to look, and thank everybody for looking at this issue because it's a very serious issue for emergency services throughout the state. Thank you.
Morning, Mr. Chairman. Thanks everybody for inviting me here today. I've been the fire chief for Blaine for 19 years. I've been in the fire service with Blaine for 30 years. So we've seen a lot of different areas where this would have been a lot helpful over the years. Definitely want to advise that, you know, we understand UTVs are mainly an off-road use vehicle, but the better option to get it there sometimes is through driving on the main road. Our UTV, I heard you say about safety issues. Our UTV is a 2022, and if you don't have your seatbelt locked, it won't go over 5 miles an hour. It does have a roll cage on it. Ours has doors on it, which is an option, but your UTV is pretty much standard with a roll cage on it. We have lights, or not sirens, we have lights, turn signals, horns. It even has a license plate light, everything required for main road use. Just some instances where they said about trailing it. We actually had a hunter this year. His truck got disabled in the snow on the state forest because we cover 130 square miles, and the Tuscarora State Forest is in our district. So we deemed it better to trailer it around the mountain, and we still had to go 6 miles up into the state forest to get him out of the state forest. And some people say, why don't you just put chains on your brush truck? We can, but that's a $135,000 vehicle when we bought it in 2014. We're probably talking $250,000 vehicle now if something would happen to it. Where this UTV is a small, agile, a better four-wheel drive system. We have 4 chains on all 4 wheels that we can take up through the ice and the snow. And it's just a lot more agile in that kind of conditions to take a vehicle like that up there instead of a brush pickup truck with chains on it. Another instance, it started out within 2 miles of our firehouse. There's a young kid ran away from home in the wintertime. Until we were said and done, we were 7 miles from the firehouse. And we actually had 2 state troopers riding along with us until we got back. We had a 13-mile drive around. They deemed instead of going through the woods, through the mountain, they just let us drive it around the mountain, which is 13-mile trek around the mountain. The main concern on my end is not so much that we're allowed to do it, it's the liability issue that if something would happen, we're not covered because they'll say, well, you're not supposed to be on the road. So if we're 10 miles from the firehouse, if something would happen, we basically have nothing to stand on because we're technically not allowed to be on the road. That's my main concern for getting the law changed is the liability issues because we're, like I said, a small department. We're all funded by fundraisers. We get no government money from the township, so we kind of worry about people trying to take our money from lawsuits and that kind of stuff, especially in this day and age. That's all I have. If you have any questions at the end, I'd feel glad to answer them.
Well, thank you, gentlemen. Well, we've been joined by Representative McAndrews and Representative Casey Tomlinson online. I guess I'll start it out a little bit, and then we'll back and forth. This is all that open conversation we're going to have because it's something you brought up. It took us 30 years to be able to take Jeep doors off of vehicles. I don't know if you gentlemen noticed that. We're allowed to drive now. It took 30 years. So we talked a little bit about safety issues. Some of the things we went through to get those Jeep doors off was making sure safety. Some of them have doors, some of them don't have doors. Would you be against any kind of regulations where we can regulate, at least require netting at those doors? Seatbelts, you said yours won't work, which I thought, because that's what we were whispering back and forth. Whoa, I didn't hear that one before, which is pretty cool. But that's stuff we can legislate within. Add some safety precautions because, unfortunately, we see people getting hurt every day. And it's a liability thing, and it's something that has come up. Does anybody have any thoughts or concerns with us putting some of those liabilities within the
I
legislation?
think that's one of the problems with the current legislation, the way it's written. It refers to all-terrain vehicle. We're referring to this vehicle, which is a utility terrain vehicle. It's a different vehicle than all-terrain. Utility terrain vehicles are more like an actual car or truck. They're manufactured just like that, with doors or nets or bars on the sides from the factory. That's the way they're made. If the definition of ATV, I picture a four-wheeler, you're driving around your backyard kind of thing that your kids might ride. To me, that's what an ATV is. And I understand maybe why that's restrictive on the highways because of the kind of vehicle it is. The UTV is a totally different vehicle. That's ours, came with doors, power windows, turn signals, headlights, high beams, windshield wiper, power windows. Same thing, the seatbelt won't go over, I think ours is 10 mile an hour without the seatbelt on. So all those safety features are built into it from the factory, from K&M. So I personally wouldn't have an issue putting it in there, but I think they're manufactured that way. So I don't think that would even be an issue for companies that own these things. I'm assuming the Chiefs, yours a Can-Am. Yeah, there's different manufacturers. We just so happen to have a Can-Am. I'm pretty sure they're all made with those safety features currently.
Chairman Benninghoff.
Excuse me. Thank you. You sort of addressed one of the things I want to make sure some of our listeners were hearing, that this is not what we would traditionally call an ATV, something you ride around in, but more importantly, you talked about the fact that some are equipped with a Stokes. For our listeners, what is a Stokes? People don't realize that to physically get somebody out of the woods, it's not that easy. A Stokes basket works pretty well. I remember a particular plane crash we had, and of course, plane crashes never happen at the bottom of the mountain. They never happen on a Sunday day, and they never happen when it's dry and cool out. And we were at the top of a mountain, and by the time any of us got to the top, there was very little equipment left to try to utilize because people were dropping along the way because it was just so fatiguing, such a steep mountainside, that by the time you get a Stokes basket up there and then have to bring that down, nobody has the energy to carry that out. So I think to be able to better explain just for some of our listeners how that equipment works, what it is, and how it's better utilized and moved on the all-terrain vehicle versus trying to strap it on the back of a four-wheeler.
So I'll address, and I'll give it to the chief here. So I'll pass these pictures around of Doylestown Fire Company's UTV. And real quickly, I'll hold this picture up. On there is an orange. That's a Stokes basket. I'm going to pass that around. Can somebody?
We
Oh, you should have them.
we have it all in our packet. It's
Okay.
all everybody has
So
one in
you'll-
front of their desk.
You'll see a couple things on the Doylestown Fire Company UTV, specifically the doors, as the same as on our police car, or I'm sorry, the police department's UTV also has doors on it. I don't think anybody would object to the netting. I don't see why anybody would object to anything that we could add on to these devices to make them safe. But as you're speaking about a Stokes basket is simply it's like a backboard, except it's a little more encapsulated with handles and straps, so that when we do put somebody on them, they're strapped down and held in place. Excuse me, the most modern thing that we're using right now is most of them are plastic, so we can slide them in the snow once they're engaged. Excuse me, but on this matter, like on our truck, our UTV, it's strapped down, so we can strap the person not only on the board but onto the UTV, so they're safe, and we move them out of an area.
The other thing is the wheelbase is different than most of your other fire and response equipment. So some of the narrow paths, which are sometimes 2 shoulders wide, it's pretty difficult to get other equipment through. These, I think, would be much more functional.
Yes, they're very, very, very functional. And again, we're back to the concern the chief spoke about of, if we have to go more than 2 miles, we technically should be on a trailer. So then we have to put it on the trailer, drive to the scene, take it off the trailer. So we're delaying a response. And as we all know, in any emergency response, seconds count. And for the fire service, seconds could be detrimental to life and death. EMS was also, I did a survey in Bucks County, and I gave all the information to Mr. Brennan that showed which emergency services in Bucks County already have UTVs, and they're all, just like everybody else is, they're waiting to know when they can put a license plate on these devices, and they can become, we can use them as the vehicle that they're intended to be used. We all agree, like Captain Carlin said, an ATV is a different device. This is, and we think of the same thing, that it's a family, you're taking your kids out on your ATV and you go out in the park and so forth. This is not what we're talking about. Both Doylestown Fire Company and Central Bucks Regional Police UTVs are outfitted with full emergency equipment and police and fire radios. So there's lights and sirens, there's headlights, there's turn signals on all of these things. Everything that's required to drive on a state highway is on our vehicles. We made sure of that when we purchased them.
Last but not least, if you're trying to clear a path or put a water line down to try to keep a fire from advancing, you have equipment that's got a tank on it. If guys are trying to do this with backpacks, it's almost fruitless at that point. But you're able to get that machine there, reload whatever you need to, also have a much greater quantity of water with you. A lot of people don't realize in these forest fires, you're really handicapped at getting equipment out there as much as manpower.
And again, as you saw in the last 2 years, the amount of brush fires and forest fires in the state has been astronomical. And based on that, I mean, a tremendous amount of fire companies in our area have been buying UTVs with water tanks so that we can get closer, faster to the fire as fast as possible. The quicker we put water on fire, the quicker it goes out.
Jump in anytime. This is the open conversation, so just feel free to grab a mic, just not off of.
On a couple things, ours is very similar to that. We have a skid unit with 80 gallons of water on it, and then we can also strap a Stokes basket on ours. And then on certain situations for an EMT, we can actually slide off our pump. We actually have a seat for an EMT that can sit there and he can strap in. So he's just not sitting up there just flopping around. He can actually strap in. And we actually used it there this winter. We had a snowmobile wreck accident, an individual we had to haul out on our Stokes basket. We put him on UTV, strapped him on, strapped the EMT to the seat so he's able to render aid as we took him out of the field. Sort of what you said about the wildfires, we were actually took ours over to the big fire in Shippensburg last year. and we actually were going down dozer trails as it was jumping the line to put it out. But also, like with the backpack ones, if we're up on top of the mountain, you know, a backpack holds about 5 gallons of water with a backpack Indian tanks. So we can take that up, and if we can have 10 guys up there, we can actually refill the Indian tanks instead of them guys trying to walk the whole way down to find water and then carry that 5 gallon of water the whole way back up. And another instance where, as you said about the Stokes basket, 2 years ago we had a hunter that broke his ankle. And we used Stokes basket. We hauled him 3 miles, carried him 3 miles on our Stokes basket. So we had a neighboring UTV. We cut trails through the forestry, opened up trails to get it there, and that saved us about 2 miles worth of walking. After that instance, why we decided to get our UTV, because it's a lot quicker response if we had our own. But he was about a 275-pound guy, and we had about 8 guys carrying him. So by the time we got 3 miles, we were starting to take breaks, and the boys were getting pretty tired. So that's kind of why we decided to get a UTV. And as far as the doors, I didn't check, but it probably is pretty much standard now to have at least a curtain on them. I know my dad purchased one, and it came standard with the netting on the door. But yeah, our policy is it don't leave unless seat belts are buckled in. If you're in it, passenger and driver have to be buckled in, and that's our company policy. And ours has the doors like theirs do, and like I said, the seat belt, if it's not buckled, it puts a limit on your speed. So yeah.
Representative Isaacson?
Thank you. And I appreciate the discussion. Obviously, we've been talking about a little more rural issues. And I'm from Philadelphia, and quite frankly, I don't necessarily see an ATV as a family-friendly vehicle. But everybody just has to read the news to understand that. Liberty Bell. That's my district, is Eastern Center City. So I appreciate the whole discussion we're having. One thing that has been said is, because Representative Brennan's bill does extend to all counties, so obviously it would affect Philadelphia. How fast do these go? You're talking about the UTVs, and that's part of the good thing about these discussions is if we need to amend something, say to a UTV rather than an ATV, you know, that's simple terminology. But how fast do these go? You talked about a restriction if a seatbelt is not buckled, but quite frankly, you know, in my area, if emergency services needed to use this, say like a special event or something, and they needed to get on 676 to get across city real quick, like, you know, are we talking they have a restriction of going only 20 miles an hour, or can these go faster than that? And Chief Campbell's shaking and smiling, so I have a feeling these can go a lot faster.
I believe ours top speed is 68 miles an hour.
Okay, so these can function at a speed
highway speed,
that needs
if you had to,
for
yes.
highways. Gotcha.
And they make different tires for them. I mean, all those things to change the characteristics of the vehicle. Ours has like deep treaded tires for off-road use. You can put more highway friendly. We're not going to, because we're not going to use it on the highway per se. Our biggest issue is our trail system. We need to go more than 2 miles, but not emergency speed.
Right. I understand that.
Yeah.
I was just, for purposes of if we end up adopting legislation that affects all counties, not all counties, you know, maybe up where Eddie lives, there's lots of trails that might be used, but, you know.
So Rep. Isaacson has been on your trails in your county. She walks them and she hikes
I actually
them.
do. I love
know you
state
do.
parks.
That's
I'm a big fan.
So she goes, she's been in, so she comes over.
So, and then the only other question I had with regard to this is, reading the analysis of this, they would not be equipped to have an audible warning system. But you said yours do? Okay. I'm just thinking that why would we not require that if it's going to be used for municipal or county services, especially for emergency services and responders like yourselves.
That's currently the exception in the vehicle code under 4571, that if we're going to use it on the highway for 2 miles, you must have licensed sirens going. So the only way you can legally do it right now without a license plate or without registration is in an emergency up to 2 miles with licensed sirens. We're looking for the alternate to get from point A to point B, not licensed sirens, but be legal officially, like the chief was talking about liability-wise.
But my point is that if you're trying to go somewhere in an emergency, I understand you
We can
wanna
do it
get
now
licensing. Yeah,
with
but,
licensed
but
sirens.
I don't understand why we wouldn't
Correct.
have that.
I
Is
agree.
that's
I agree.
okay. Thank you.
We've also been joined by Rep. Shelby Labs in person here today. Talked about policy and some of the policy that it's your policy to make part of your policy. See, we're about law. We're not about policy. The training requirements. Like volunteers are tough. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, they're hard to get first off, but they come from all walks of life.
Right.
And we want to make sure that the person on this vehicle has been trained to ride this vehicle. It's something. Do you do training, specialized
we
training for
actually
those who operate these?
Yeah, we own a rural picnic grounds. That's 30 acres. It borders a creek and everything. So we actually set up our own little course. The guys have to go, you know, kind of how it would feel off-road. We do require them to have a driver's license because we have some Amish gentlemen that run our department, but, you know, they can run the machines at their camp. I'm like, no, you have to have a driver's license to operate it. And they have to know how to operate the pump. And then once we get enough trips that we feel comfortable that they're able to operate it in conditions, and then we'll clear them for it. It's just, you can't jump in it and go.
Can I speak on that as
Yeah, I
well?
would like that. Yes,
So-
please.
Doylestown Fire Company has the same type of policy. We have a training, you have to have a driver's license first off. Most of our fleet, you have to be 21 years of age. The smaller fleet is 18, depending on your the chief at the time, if he agrees that you're eligible for that. And then we have a training policy. They have to drive it a certain amount of times. They have to be able to work the truck or the device, UTV. And in the police department side, we're being an accredited agency, so I'm sure you know about accredited.
We do.
There's a policy for everything.
You know, Nielsen likes accredited, right? You've heard that.
So we're accredited, and we have a written policy on how to operate the UTV, and everybody has to be trained on it. We just don't throw the keys at them and say, have a good time. Because it is a different type of vehicle. So yes, we have a policy and procedure for everything that related to the device.
Anything else? Anybody else? That nothing? All right. Any of you guys want to add anything before we adjourn?
I do.
Please.
And I don't know if this is repetitive, and I'm sure it is, but at the end of the day, we're not looking to change the law about ATVs or UTVs. We're looking very simply to say for emergency services, fire, EMS, and police, put a little sentence in there that says we can use this for doing our job. That's all we're really looking to do. And give us a license plate so that when we do, something may happen. You never know. People are going to, you know what they're going to say. Well, you don't even have a license plate on your vehicle, so how are you registered? So it's just, to us, it's just simply closing a little bit of a gap. And you're not affecting the rest of the state for UTVs that aren't emergency vehicles or emergency response type devices, like I call them. So that's what I believe we're really looking for here, and really just some help from you folks. And we appreciate all your time, we really do, and especially Tim for helping us get to this point.
Tim who? Chairman Benninghoff for closing remarks.
Two things. First of all, by plating this thing, you're obviously going to have a little bit of increase in insurance cost. I'm assuming you're willing to absorb that. Second of all, I find some irony in the fact that we're having to go through all this exercise and possible legislation, and for you to get permission to take care of those people who didn't have permission to ride in similar vehicles and get themselves in a predicament. But life is full of these kinds of conundrums. That said, in the interim, anytime you can get your local legislators down to see this piece of equipment, I think most of us are hands-on learning. Not everyone's involved with this themselves. It would probably be helpful to do that for those of you who have the equipment. Take time to reach out to your senators, legislators, so when this kind of legislation moves, it's a visual for them of what you're trying to talk about. Nobody wants to raise their hand and say, I don't know the difference between a four-wheeler and a utility vehicle, but there is a distinctive difference expressing the wheelbase, how that allows you better access, and transporting patients on that. And as you made a very good example, people don't realize getting to the person, rendering aid is one thing. Getting them out of the woods, I'd encourage anyone here just to put one of those backpacks of 5 gallons of water on your back. What is that, 25, 30 pounds? Much less carrying somebody else in a basket for up to a mile, 2 miles. It's not easy to do that. It's hard enough to get yourself out. I remember coming down off some of the mountains. I'm thinking, my God, trying to carry somebody and get myself out of here in 30 inches of snow. I'm not the tallest guy in the world. You know, it's really a challenge. And if it's for the safety of our EMS providers as well as access to those they're rendering care to. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, and thank you to all our testifiers for coming up today, and also thank you for your service to the Commonwealth. We do appreciate it. It allows people like all of us up here to sleep at night, knowing that you're out there protecting us and the public. This meeting of the House Transportation is adjourned. Thank you.